Well, welcome everyone. My name is Chrisanne Blackie. I'm the director of the Career Center, so I really appreciate you coming out to this event. This is our first time that we're doing an event like this, Careers in Insurance, and John, who's from MMG, we lost him in the back. This is John.
Hello.
He came and met with us probably late last fall, and shared with us that the insurance industry is in great need of a future workforce. And so we thought, wow, this is a great opportunity for our students to be looking at careers in insurance and to really learn what those careers are. So we're very happy to have this group of panelists that have joined us and willing to come and meet with you. The way the afternoon will work is that we will have a presentation. We will have some food coming so that you guys will have some good snacks and then be able to network with these folks after the panel presentation. I'd like to introduce to you Margaret Milken. She is the managing partner for the Jacobson Group, and Margaret will be will offer some opening remarks, and then she will be the moderator for the panel. She is a member of the firm's executive management team and is a key ambassador in establishing strategic client relationships and broadening the firm's reach and breadth of insurance talent solutions. You are the talent, right?
I love it.
Perfect. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Chrisanne. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am so delighted to be here in Maine at the University of Maine. I said to my good friend, Matt McHadden, as I was walking in, there's nothing like walking into a student union. It feels like home. It's welcoming. I didn't even look at my directions because I knew that this was the Memorial Union. And I like to humanize things. So I'm going to tell you, we have some very simple ground rules for today. And that is, we're going to have some fun. We're going to learn a little bit. And we're going to get to know each other. I want you to experience insurance like I have. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story before I let these fabulous CEOs and executives of their company talk to you about insurance. I'm going to kind of get into the weeds. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. So I told you a little bit about my student union. I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign. Has anybody ever been to Chicago? One. Yay, thank you, thank you. So the University of Illinois is our flagship university. It's about 2.5 hours south from Chicago. And when I went there, there were about 30,000 students. So we had a union much like yours. And when I was on campus, my leadership role was to be the president of the student union. So we had a union board and we did program activities, and it was terrific, and I enjoyed it. And what does it have to do with insurance? Well, I'm going to tell you. So I worked with the union director. Her name was Susan Mall. She was my first mentor. And she said to me, Margaret, some really important companies are going to come onto campus and they're going to do some interviews of student leaders. And I put your name on a list. And I said, wow, that's so great. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because I was a senior and I wanted a job. So how many of you are seniors? Okay. How many of you have jobs? Okay, you're going to like this story. Oh, do you have jobs already? Okay, so you're going to like my story. So one of the companies I got to interview for a job with was Procter & Gamble. And it was very exciting. It was very prestigious. But the other company that I got to interview with was Allstate Insurance. I ended up with 2 job offers, very, very blessed, fortunate. And I sat down at the kitchen table with my mom and my dad, like many of us have over the years, and we were looking at both offers. And my dad said, okay, tell me what you think you're going to do at Procter & Gamble. And I said, well, Dad, I get a company car, and then I get to drive around from store to store and set up these merchandise, events and things. And he said, uh-huh. And then he said, what's the job at Allstate? And I said, well, it will be a management trainee. And he said, and where will you go every day? And I said, I'm going to go to the home office in Northbrook. He goes, you're going to go the same place every day? And I said, yes. So my dad said to me, he said, Margaret Ann, you and I both know you have no sense of direction. I think you should take the job at Allstate because you go to the same place every day and you won't get lost. Okay, so that's how I ended up in insurance. And I was very, very fortunate that I had my dad and no sense of direction. Okay, so I will tell you, many people kind of fall into the world of insurance. And I have been very fortunate that I fell into it many years ago, over 30. So I've only had 2 jobs. Okay, my first job was with Allstate. My second job is with Jacobson, the company that I'm with today. Jacobson serves the insurance industry. We're not an insurance provider, but we serve the insurance industry. We do executive search and staffing. So we look for talented people like all of you in the room to fuel this industry, because that's what fuels the industry is talent. People with bright minds and great hearts, people with courage and energy and curiosity. And we want you in insurance. So today I'm going to tell you, we're going to be a little shameless about how much we love our industry, because the insurance industry, unfortunately, sometimes gets a bad reputation. So I'm going to ask you all, when you first think about insurance, would you raise your hand and tell me what you think of? Just call it out. There's no grades and, no, we won't be naming and blaming, but what's the first thing that you think about? Yes. What do you think?
A
Hassle, a hassle. Okay. Who else?
Sales.
Sales. Okay, that's a very common one. So is yours, unfortunately. Yes.
Risk.
Risk. Excellent, excellent. Anybody else? So we have a spectrum here. Hassle, risk, sales. Okay. So a lot of times in insurance, what we're having to do, frankly, is reimagine. Getting people like you, frankly, to think it's not a hassle, that insurance is good and insurance does good. And really that's the premise that Insurance Careers Month started with. So I think that when John Herway from MMG and Chris Ann were talking, we thought this would be a perfect time to come to the University of Maine and do a little bit of evangelizing for the insurance industry, because February is Insurance Careers Month. All around the world this month, people like us are gathering. And some of the groups are smaller, some of them are larger, and it's a global happening. And we're going to be part of that, so I'm going to encourage you all to take some pictures and to post on social media. We're going to be tweeting and we're going to be sharing on LinkedIn, and we're going to get the word out that something really special is happening here at University of Maine today. So back to insurance, back to changing and reimagining where we are. So I'm going to give you a quick backdrop, and you're going to hear from our very, very fun and distinguished panelists here a little bit about their stories, their company's stories, and how they got to be sitting in these seats today. But we have a wonderful opportunity in insurance. I'll tell you the biggest fact that I would love for you to walk away from today is that unemployment in insurance is hovering right at about 2%. That means that our whole industry in insurance is fully employed. Okay? That's good news. Okay? The other piece of really great news is that we have an aging workforce in insurance. Okay? There are a lot of people who are in their 50s and 60s and sometimes in their 70s who are going to be retiring. And we don't have enough people to take their spots. So there's a host of career opportunities, and we can talk about those in the networking, but I will tell you, don't just think you have to be an actuary. Okay, actuary is a fabulous, fabulous field. Are there any actuaries or mathematicians or data analysts here in the room? You. And what's your major?
I'm a graduate student. I'm in the School of Earth and Climate Sciences.
Okay, very good. Well, that is, I was going to say, very much in line with what I just said. So actuarial science, risk management, and certainly analytics are very, very hot. But you know what? So is claims, and so is underwriting, and so are sales and marketing, and social media, and IT, finance. You have a host of career opportunities because insurance is business, okay? And it's a robust business. It's a business, frankly, that needs talent, okay? So if I'm going to ask them later what keeps them up at night, but I'm going to tell you what keeps me up each and every night is trying to figure out how we're going to replace them. Okay? Where is the next generation of talent coming? And we have to get ready, and we have to get ready now. So it's an exciting time for insurance. I think that the doors are wide open for you. It's a fabulous industry. And I think so many people, like myself, kind of stumble in. But once you stumble in, I will tell you, I've never thought about leaving. It is such a privilege and an honor to serve this industry. Insurance does good. Insurance is good. Insurance attracts good people. And if we keep that backdrop in mind as we're talking here today, and we're going to have a wide-ranging conversation. We're going to be talking about everything from robotics to analytics to gender and diversity. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to have some fun, but I hope I've given you a little bit of a backdrop and whet your appetite a bit about the wonderful world of insurance. Are you with me? Okay, well, good. Now I'm going to turn around and introduce this fabulous panel sitting with me, and I've asked them all to introduce themselves a little bit, tell them your story. And Michael, we're going to start with you. Michael Bork, he is President and CEO at MEMIC Insurance in Portland, Maine. So, Michael?
Great. Well, I'm about 5 months into my job as President and CEO of MEMIC. I'll share a little bit about our company. We're a workers' compensation insurance company based in Portland, but we do business across the country and particularly down the East Coast. We started in Maine about 25 years ago and have grown since then. I've been with MEMIC for 23 years in July. And I am a graduate of the University of Maine with a degree in journalism. So of course I would go into insurance, right? Of course. My story is not atypical. There are lots of folks who insurance is not necessarily their first step. And there's no way I would have ever thought, sitting in your seat where you are today, that I would be, one, working at an insurance company, or two, be the president and CEO of a company here in Maine. My plan was to be a sports writer. And in fact, I did that for a year and a half. I went to Alaska and worked for a newspaper there, and then I came back to Maine and worked for a newspaper. I looked around the newsroom one day and realized that I didn't see any old, happy reporters, and started to think, how's this going to work? What's the rest of my career going to look like? And from there, I actually made a move into the public relations field. I went to Washington, D.C., worked there for a time, was getting married, came back to Maine, and found a job at this company called MEMIC that was only a couple of years old at the time, and started as a public relations specialist there. And what I've always said is that I always maintained my reporter's license to ask all the dumb questions and continue to use that. And act as sort of help interpret the industry. I mean, part of what Margaret talks about, and you said hustle. I would agree. I hate insurance companies. I hate most insurance. Seriously, we are our own worst enemy in so many ways. Working in a highly regulated industry, in circumstances that are sometimes difficult, and so thinking about you getting into this world, helping us to overcome that, I think will be part of your challenge and part of what I think the next generation has to succeed at. But that's been part of what I've wanted to do as I've been in the industry, is that I've looked at it as a challenge to be able to talk about the good, to show people the good, to show how it enables people to take risks that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So my company only sells workers' compensation insurance. We employ about 400 people based in Portland. About 300 of them are in Portland. The total assets of our company are $1.3 billion, so we're not a small entity by any means. We have very good paying jobs. Margaret mentioned some of the kinds of jobs that are in our field, from IT to investment work, to finance, to underwriting, to work in claims, to medical management, which is sort of being associated with medical care that workers get if they have an injury, communications, all sorts of great opportunities. So I could talk for a while. I will stop there, and we'll have a chance to answer questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. And next we have Jonathan Cross, and he is Executive Vice President at Cross Insurance.
Yes, Cross Insurance, it's my grandfather started the agency in Bangor back in 1954. We're a independent insurance broker, which agent or broker, and we sell products for insurance companies like MMG and MEMIC. We're based in Bangor with offices as far as through Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and we serve clients all across the country. Our job is to get the product to market. So if you come into our office, we will sell you a policy with MMG or with MEMIC or a variety of other companies. We will do everything from claims management to service the policy to we have accounting roles, we have marketing, and again, we're a company of about 900 people. If any of you are looking for jobs anywhere in New England, that's where we sit. So when the insurance companies are, when they screw up, it's our job to come in and smooth things over. So not that they ever would, but
We're busy.
yeah. So
Thank you, Jonathan. And you're going to hear today there's a symbiotic relationship between the insurance industry. So Chris Condon is next. He is President and CEO of United Insurance, also here in Maine. Chris?
I'm trying to think what a symbiotic relationship is, but it certainly is a unique one. We're
It's not a biology degree.
We're friends some days, and other days we're maybe not. But I'm President and CEO of United Insurance. We're a Maine-based insurance agency broker similar to Jonathan's operation. I'm originally from Presque Isle. We have a very strong county connection, or northern Maine. Bangor is considered northern Maine for everybody in Portland, they think. And so you qualify there, Jonathan. But our organization, like Jonathan's, we're a insurance agency. Most of our business is commercial lines. About 55–65% of our business is commercial insurance. So we're going in and helping businesses figure out how to manage risk, how to deal with insurance claims. And so we're insuring everything from loggers to truckers to farmers to manufacturing. We insure towns and schools. Whatever we see whatever you see up and down Maine in your communities, we're going in and helping clients figure out how to buy the right insurance product. Significant part of our business today is still personal lines, home and auto insurance. So you think about things you might see in your personal life, and then a smaller part of what we do is financial services, so group benefits. Today we're 14 locations, primarily Maine, 140 some employees. So our place and our opportunities, there are plenty. Lots of sales. Hiring salespeople for us is always easy because we're essentially the sales arm for a number of insurance companies for Larry and Mike's operations here. And then we have lots of customer service positions or account managers, account executives, and then all the backroom support that goes along with it, technology and accounting and bookkeeping and so forth. So I know we'll spend a lot more time digging into kind of what we do and what the opportunities are, but look forward to hearing you folks connect with us today.
Thank you, Chris. And last but not least, we have Larry Shaw, who is President and CEO of MMG in Presque Isle, Maine.
Thank you, Margaret. So I'm on the opposite end of Mike. You say you're 5 months in, Mike?
Yes.
I'm 23 years into my role as CEO. And it's been quite a ride. MMG is the home office is in Presque Isle, which is kind of unique. But a lot of insurance companies like ourselves were built in small towns or grew out of small towns. Because the farmers started them. We're 120 years old this year, or in 17. It's been around forever. When I started 35 years ago, we were $5 million of revenue. We'll be over $200 million this year. So it's been a very interesting transformation. We're in 5 states: Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Virginia. We write personal lines and commercial lines, homeowners, auto, umbrella, and then the commercial lines, property, and the auto account as well. So we'll get into that more, but definitely the talent need is significant. And it's even more challenged, I think, the further you move north, the more challenging the talent attraction is, but we've been on quite a run, which I know we'll get into. I am a proud graduate of the University of Maine in 1981, and we think Chris graduated from here as well, but
I spent time here.
that hasn't been confirmed. The way that I found myself into the industry was by happenstance, which is very common. Actually, I worked at a bank for 9 months and they politely asked me to leave. That's the political way of saying I got fired. And a month later, there was a job open at MMG, and I started at that point in time. But I can tell you that it's been an absolutely wonderful career. The people in this industry, the culture, the challenge, the reward, I really could go on forever. And the toughest challenge we have as businesses in hiring is that disconnect between what it looks like from the outside to what it's really like on the inside. So hopefully we can dispel some of those misconceptions, if you will, because whatever you're interested in your talent, in your toolbox is designed in a way. More than likely, one of the four of us has a role, a very challenging role with a great opportunity. Because one of the most powerful things Margaret said is, in an industry that's going to retire people, it's not just about the job. That's what you all are thinking about, that first job. But think about the opportunity that sort of unfolds in front of you for careers. Because insurance will be here to stay. And will continue to be challenging.
Thank you, Larry. And he didn't tell you about a wonderful thing that happens at MMG on a very nice spring day, and that's when the millennials and the Generation Z population goes out and plays Frisbee on the lawn. And I have pictures of it. And they do this, right? They do this every nice day. And you know what? It happens. And it's fun. You know, it's fun to see. So we're going to start out kind of pivoting off of what Larry said. And we're going to start broad. We're not going to start about all insurance. Okay? We're going to talk about the nature of career, okay? The workforce and the world that you're entering. So how many seniors do we have? Would you raise your hands? Okay. And you're all graduating this May? Okay, congratulations. I've got a senior too. My daughter is graduating from University of Illinois, and she does not have a job either. That we're working on her for insurance too. How many juniors in the room? Juniors? Okay. Sophomores? Sophomores, thank you for being here. Any freshmen? Okay. Okay. Well, you got to jump on the crowd, so good for you. Good for you. So we're going to talk about this changing environment that we're in, and how that kind of permeates into careers. So we have an expression that we've all been talking about in the industry and insurance, but broader than that. And John Herway will know this term because it's a military term. And the term is VUCA, V-U-C-A. Has anyone besides John heard of the term VUCA before? A VUCA environment. So it was a military term that was coined in the 90s. And it was talking about, and I hope I say this right, John, talking about Iraq and the issues and what went on in Desert Storm. The V was for volatile, okay, a volatile environment. The U was for uncertain, the C for complex, and A for ambiguous. It's not just a military term. It's the nature of our world, the nature of how we live and how we work today. And insurance does have a big role in dealing with and navigating in this VUCA environment that we're talking about. Because we need new skills. We need new traits to navigate in this environment. It's not a straight path. Okay? These guys don't wake up in the morning and have a rule book that they can follow. They have to use their head, and their heart. They have to be curious. They have to be courageous. Sometimes they have to make a tough call. And you know what? So will you. And so do I. And that's the environment today that we're working in and that you're going to be building your careers in. And we hope that many of you will see the light and come to insurance. But wherever you start your career, you're going to be facing these same changing environments and this changing mindset. Nothing's easy. That doesn't mean that it's not good, and it doesn't mean that it's not fun, and it doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. But we're doing things differently. We're reimagining, we're reinventing the way we live and we work. So, with that, gentlemen, we're going to talk about the nature of careers and work and just give you a chance to share with us your thought about the VUCA environment, about maybe how things have changed and maybe where the opportunities are as we all think about our careers. Because it really isn't a ladder anymore. You know, when I joined the industry of insurance at Allstate, you know, there was a very linear path up to get to the CEO or to get to first a first level supervisor, then a manager, then a director. But now the world has changed a little bit. Now we're a little more horizontal. People move sideways, or they move this way, or maybe they move down, or maybe they move out and then they move up. So everything is very, very fluid. It makes it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more complex, but I think it makes it more interesting. So I don't know where to start, but I'm thinking, Chris, I'm going to start with you because you have that big smile on your face, and I bet you have something to say to the audience.
See, well, I always have something to say. See, this is like being in class where you don't want to catch a teacher's eye.
We all would do.
Because then you're going to have to answer it, right?
You were the last to arrive. So
Yeah, I
this is
know.
your-
It's the story of my life. But you know what? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. You know, when I think of what Margaret's talking about, and I think about the changing work environment that's out there, that if we go back a generation or two, we think about our parents, grandparents, maybe even great-grandparents for you guys. They might have gone to work somewhere where they worked for maybe a mill or a union, and they would go to work there, and the union or the corporation, the employer, would take care of them for life. And a lot of things have changed, this area especially. Penobscot River used to have 4 or 5 mills. I think we're at 0 now. And so the environment's changed, and a significant change of that means that the employee, you folks, as you get out into the workforce, you're in charge of your careers. You're the ones that need to figure out what you want and where you're going. And so as an employer, what it's putting more of a challenge on us is around communication, that we need to be much clearer in terms of what we're expecting out of employees and much clearer in terms of what the career path is. Because we're seeing this too often where an employee comes in, and I can think of one particular employee that we have lined up for a promotion a month or 2 out, and she left. She got a job offer for a few $1,000s more and went somewhere else. We and she did not communicate well in terms of what we thought and what we saw her career path as, and she never raised her hand and said, hey, listen, I've got this other opportunity. Before I accept it, before I leave, can we have a conversation around, is there something similar here? So if I can give you some advice around career paths, be in control of it and communicate very clearly. It's okay to go to your employer and say, hey, there's this other opportunity came to me, somebody sought me out. I don't know whether I want to leave or not, but, you know, take care of yourself and be fair to your employer. And the employer needs to communicate clearly with you. And that's an ongoing, you know, bilateral, two-way kind of conversation. So manage your careers. That's within your Allstate thing, right? That's within your control.
It is. No, and thank you, Chris. We like to say you're the CEO of you. Exactly what Chris said. You're the CEO of you. Your company that you join or companies you join, they're not in charge of managing your career. You are. Okay? But the other side of it, it's a relationship. It's not a transaction, especially in insurance. Okay? We have relationships with people that go back years and years. And there's a lot of heart in insurance that I think as you listen to these gentlemen and you hear some stories from others around the room, it's not just a transaction. It's not just pay the claim. It's what happened to that family. Are they okay? Are they safe? Okay. So this goodness factor really permeates insurance. And I think it resonates well. And here I go back to being shameless about insurance. Okay, Jonathan, where do you go next?
One of the things that I see when students come into, or anybody new to the insurance industry, is it's important to keep your expectations in an area where you're not done learning. So you graduate, you're sick of studying, and then all of a sudden you get this job and you're kind of studying over again. And I'll tell people oftentimes that it's going into the business is kind of like getting a master's degree, but you can go at your own pace. And those that do well are the ones that say that, you know, they'll study on their own and they won't necessarily just rely on the employer to give them the information. They'll take their own responsibility. I mean, it's interesting to hear Chris talk. We compete against each other, but yet we're seeing the same challenges, and he's right in that the responsibility goes back to the individual, because we will keep up with those that want to that want to advance, but it's up to them to really take responsibility for themselves, and we can feed resources, we can feed classes, we can feed information, and that's where you really build value for yourselves within an organization. And that's where those of us on this side saying, you know, we can't get, you know, we have to make sure that we take good care of this person, because they're the ones that figured out how to take the hassle out of our business. So they're the ones that looked for, found, you know, an issue in how the product flowed, and said, you know, raised their hand and say, you know, I think we can do this a little bit different. And you know, there's an incredible amount of opportunity, and also don't go in with thinking that you may want to do one thing, because, you know, those of us in the business represent hundreds of different jobs, depending on, you know, if you like to talk to people, if you like to be solve problems, if you like to be, you know, some people like paperwork, some people don't. You know, there's a variety of areas that you can go in, but you can really determine your own path. You get a tremendous amount of control, which some people like having that control. Other people like to be in a bit more of a regimented environment. You know, we can all provide those career paths as well.
You raised a great point, Jonathan. And I'm going to ask you, Larry, to talk a little bit about kind of the value of continuing education. You know, whether, you know, many of you will go on and get a master's, maybe a PhD, but if you join an industry like insurance, there's a host of professional designations that you can pursue. Larry, could you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that it is really key to come in, and it's quite exciting to continue to learn. But really what I did, so just quickly, so coming off being asked to leave, my first job for the first 2 years I was at MMG was pulling staples out of policies to prepare them for to get keyed into the computer at the time. And I was so glad to have a paycheck that I would have done anything.
They had the stone tablets just before you, right?
That's right. Exactly. I still have the staple puller, actually, and I still am quite good at snapping staple. But what I did during that time frame is I got very active in the insurance education. We have a really great design where you can really study and be aggressive with your training. So I did a lot of that. I then went, Husson happened to show up because the University of Maine didn't, and offered a master's program in accounting at the time that I took advantage of. So really, there's so much opportunity for what Jonathan's talking about. It's about how fast do you want to push the accelerator now? And really what we like to see, if you're going to build a career, pay attention to all that's going on around you, not just your area of what your job is at that moment in time. Obviously, I couldn't have studied real hard to get better at staple pulling, but I could learn the industry. And I had that opportunity. So it's a great industry if you want to get in, study, and get yourself prepared. The timing was perfect for me. To have all the education, to have my master's degree done, and then have the role open up at the time. Because I had stationed myself with the type of background.
That's a great point. And, you know, the word that kept coming into my head as you were talking, Larry, was holistic. Okay? Being holistic about your career, looking at things not through a narrow silo, but really through a broad spectrum. That's really a gift and, frankly, table stakes for what we call the agile leader. Okay? That leader that's going to be able to excel in the VUCA environment. So agility, nimbleness, being able to kind of understand the big picture. Yes, get focused when you need to, but understand how it all fits together. Really makes sense. So a little birdie told me, and I think it was
Can I mention one
oh,
thing?
yes, please.
One of the great things about when you get into your career and you start learning, you learn something today and you can actually apply it tomorrow. And you know, that was one of my challenges for me getting through school. I lasted at the University of Maine for a year. If they looked at my transcript, they probably wouldn't have me up here today. So I ended up going to Husson and getting my degree. But I like being able to work, to be able to read it in the book and then actually see how it applied in real life. And so it gives it, you start to learn differently, and it starts, even if it's a struggle today to just get through this the last few classes, it's incredibly encouraging when you can apply it immediately. So
It's very true. It's back to relationships. I mean, insurance is a relationship business, like many businesses. So I was going to tell you the little birdie story about Mike. So I remember, and I think it was in your first month when you had just become CEO, and I heard that he had visited Presque Isle, Maine to talk to the CPCU chapter. Okay, does anybody know CPCU, what that means? Okay. That's an insurance designation, and it's probably one of the most prestigious designations the industry has. It's the Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter designation. And Mike went up, I think it was your first month, right, to talk to the chapter?
Before, although I was there, I didn't speak to the group that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
it's
he
important.
did this because obviously has this great relationship with the good people at MMG in Presque Isle and believes in CPCU. So I'll let you tell your story. I knew that the birdie whispered something like that in my ear, but I remember thinking to myself, there's something great about the wonderful state of Maine. There's a lot of great things about it. But from the tippy top, Presque Isle, to the southern, there's a connection. And I think that's the relationships and the heart that really means so much here to all of you.
And I'll just mention, Margaret, just because we'll be corrected if we don't. The tippy top, really, probably Madawaska, we would say, is the tippy top of Maine. And I know that having grown up in Ashland, also in Aroostook County. But I wanted to just briefly mention, it strikes me that the good news about a VUCA environment is that that's a step better than FUBAR, which we know is not where the insurance industry is. So important in the military jargon if you want to go there. I will just speak to the importance again of continuing education. It's something that we do stress in our company. I can tell you that we have about 70 people enrolled in a single class that is a 10-week program to get a certification in workers' compensation. In particular, it's the business that we're in. But we have another several dozen people who are pursuing their Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter, CPCU. Many others in master's programs. We offer, as do many in the insurance industry, help you pay for those sorts of things. So that's an important aspect of the kind of work that we do. That is important. We have a tuition reimbursement program at MEMIC that helps people to take care of their masters if that's what they want to do or go into. And I can tell you, there are a couple people here with me from MEMIC today. I just want to mention Christina Kozar raised her hand. She's with our HR recruiting area. And then Chris Abood, who is a senior underwriter at MEMIC. He's been with us for 6 years. He came through the University of Southern Maine program but he's taken his CPCU courses, he's taken his WCP courses, and these days he's an underwriter on $1 million accounts for us. He's
One correction,
yes.
taking my WCP course now.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Good.
What is WCP?
Workers' Compensation Professional is what WCP stands for. That's the 10-week class that I pointed out. But so, he's somebody who's came in as an intern first with the company, got a chance to work around a few different parts of the organization and figured out where he wanted, and we certainly figured out where we wanted him, and just taken advantage of education and training. And like I said, he is actually the underwriter on our account with the University of Maine. The University of Maine system is insured with us, and Chris is the person who determined what the cost ought to be and why, and is doing very important work for us right now, just a few years into his career.
That's great. And thank you, Michael, for calling that out, because we have a lot of talent in the industry, and I know we have some people from MMG here, gentlemen. You want to introduce yourselves too?
I'm Cameron Anderson. I was an intern with MMG, also graduated University of Maine. I've worked down in Concord for the last couple of years, so I've been able to experience MMG's regional office, which is nice. And my family's up in northern Maine, so they provide me flexibility going back and forth. I can work in Presque Isle sometimes, and just a lot of opportunity. And to Larry's point about opportunity timing itself well, I think if you're someone that is willing to push yourself with the education and on the job, it's not irony when the opportunities come your way like that at the right time.
That's great. Thank you.
I'm Jared Dugan. I'm actually from Southern Maine, but moved up to the county, so it's a culture shock, I guess. A lot slower, but very comfortable. And I was a graduate of UMaine too, a year after Cam, and interned a year after Cam, I guess, and started a year after Cam.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're here because you know the cry for talent, and I know Catherine very well, so you can tell her I'm waving at her. Yes. And I have to say something about WCP. So good luck with your exam. I know that MEMIC celebrates. They work hard, but they also celebrate, and they recognize success. So I've seen the people who achieve the WCP at MEMIC go out for a day in New York. And if the event is Las Vegas, they're in Las Vegas. This is an industry, we work very hard, but we also take time for each other, and we take time to celebrate. So there's some good pot of gold at the end, and it's exciting. So good luck.
Thank you. I'll make mention, a few years ago, before I was the president, when people achieve their charter, their CPCU, once they finish, that's a 10-course certification. It takes a lot of work. It's not something you just skip through. But there were people who were promised that if they got through and passed all their exams, they could go get their designation in Hawaii, where the annual conference was. And the company sent people to Hawaii to do that. So it became a very nice opportunity and a great incentive for folks.
So it's funny with CPCU, I think every 4, 5, or 6 years, CPCU has its big annual conference in Hawaii. And it's amazing how membership spikes that year when it's the Hawaii year. Everybody wants to get their CPCU that year. So there are a lot of different facets. So I'm going to shake it up a little bit. And I'm going to throw out another word. And it's something that all of us, I think, in insurance have been living with. Started in 2015, 16, and then 17, we called the year of disruption. The year of disruption. This is when it felt like the industry was turning itself on its head. Okay? We started really focusing on artificial intelligence and robotics, machine learning. Analytics got to a frenzy, and this still continues. Okay? So the industry, startups, InsurTech, okay? Companies that are just beginning with like a little embryo of a company, somebody with an idea or a dream trying to build an insurance organization. People that are probably just a few years older than you. So 2017 was our year of disruption. We know it's continuing in 2018. So I'm going to throw it out to the panel. on how they feel this disruption, this energy, and I think it's a great opportunity. That's my angle on it, from a talent angle, because the drive for technology talent, analytics talent, people who can create an environment where a robot and a person might be working side by side. There's a lot of change, and we didn't expect this. I know I didn't expect it when I joined Allstate over 30 years ago. Okay, nobody was talking about robots and insurance in the same sentence. So, gentlemen, what do you think about disruption? What does it mean for all of us here in the room today? You want to start, Mark?
Sure. It is absolutely true that there's all sorts of disruption going on around the industry. And there are two things that I sort of put at the top of the list that I think are causing it. And technology is obviously one. The other is demographics, though, I think, in my world at least, both with the changing of our own industry, the retirements we talk about, so that big bunch of baby boomers moving on, but also the way people interface or think about how they want to buy insurance, how they experience insurance. All of that is changing. And so that's been something that we've all had to be understanding and dealing with, and understand how to keep what is the fundamental good that is happening in our industry, but think about it in new ways. To me, some of the excitement around data analytics is really interesting, in that it's sort of some of the same old, it's some of the story that we have in the kernels of our industry. It's at the core of what we are, which is looking at data to determine what the future may bring. Data analytics brings in huge amounts of other data that none of us had ever considered before, to look for the relationships that can then tell us something more about the future. We're finding more and more of those bits and pieces of disparate data that we can put together to truly predict what happens. And that's hugely exciting, because we all sell a product, or at least Larry and I sell a product that we don't ultimately know the cost of. We have a sense, because our actuaries tell us this is the likelihood, this is the risk that you have, and this is where the price has to be. But getting closer to knowing what that is something that is really exciting, and brings efficiency back into more efficiency into the insurance market, into our whole economy. So.
It's a great point. And what I'll say to everybody, you don't have to be an actuary. You don't have to be a data scientist. In my world, in executive search and staffing, I would tell you, for every position we work on, from human resources, where we talk about people analytics, to claims, where we talk about claims analytics, marketing analytics. Analytics has permeated every element of business. And certainly insurance is right there. So we have, as Mike said, we have a data-rich industry, okay? But it's being able to tell the story of that data is really making the big difference. And that's where the opportunity is. And that's why we need you. So there is a lot of opportunity, but don't think, oh, I have to have a PhD and I have to know how to do SAS and R. You don't. Okay? There are people that we do need that have to have those skills, but we need people who will be able to take the data and interpret it and tell the story. So what about, technology, the story of the data? I see you smiling there, Chris.
I'll go. Yeah, I would suggest, though, Margaret, though, running a business, there's always some level of disruption. And the insurance agency business, the independent insurance agency that Jonathan and I, the side we're in, has been a continued level of disruption for a long time. And whether it was Allstate and State Farm competing with us and taking some market share once upon a time, to Geico and Progressive becoming direct writers and significant competitors over the last 10 or 15 years, there's always some level of disruption. And the question that sits out there is, how do we react to it? And so when I think about technology and challenges that we're working on right now, we don't have all the solutions. My oldest daughter got her license here 2 years ago, and so I bought her a 10-year-old Subaru with one dent in it. Now the car has dents on all four corners, and we've not put any claims in yet. But it might be non-renewed after this. But so we bought the car, drove it home illegally, no plates and no insurance. And so I got home and I gave her a long speech around insurance, and that we need to talk about liability, comp, and we need to talk about collision, responsibilities. And so I said, Abby, before you take this to school tomorrow, we've got to get it insured. And you know what she does? I figure my phone. She gets her phone out and she goes, okay, Dad, how do I do that? It was striking to me because our business model is still largely what it was years ago. We open at 8, we go to 4:30, our staff take an hour lunch around noontime. And so a challenge that we're working through right now, especially on the personal line side, is how do we become more accessible where somebody can get at a car after hours, somebody can ask for a quote after hours, whether that's electronically or a service center. And it's changing, some of it's changing demographics in terms of the millennials. And just think about, if you go back a generation or two, there was very rarely double income families. And nowadays, moms and dads both work. And so when do they have time to think about insurance? You come home and you do the dishes, or you make dinner, you do the dishes, and you get the kids in bed, and then you open up bills at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and that's a time they're thinking about insurance, and we're not open. And so we're working with our carriers and with third-party vendors internally to find solutions so that we can be available for those clients and meet those clients' needs.
It's a great example.
One of the things that, because what's attractive to disruptors or startups or people that want to get into the insurance industry, because it's very data rich, it's a long value chain, and it's a slower process to buy. So, but you take the travel agency business. I mean, today, if you were going to buy a plane ticket, who would go to a travel agent?
Do you guys even know what travel agents are?
Yeah. A travel agent was a person that you'd go to buy tickets. So we're under pressure to come back and are we going to be eliminated from the business? What these companies that are finding that are trying to break into the industry, this company's called Lemonade. They have all these fancy names. Once people, they may buy car insurance and they may go to their phone and buy that. But when they buy their first house, or if they have a small business, they want to get their information through online. They want to get the quote, but they still want to have a human being that they talk to on the phone. And they want to ask her, is this really the right product for me? Because it's going to be hard they're finding that it's going to be challenging for bots and for some of these automated processes, because you think of auto insurance as being the same, but everybody in this room is buying a completely different product, even if we happen to be buying from MMG. We're going to have different cars, we have different ages, we have different information about us that makes us unique. So, bots and automated processes need lots of things to be the same. We're never going to have that, because you're going to have a different vehicle, a different home, a different address. You're going to have a dog, and Chris over there is going to have a trampoline and a slide, and nobody's going to want to sell him insurance. So those that are trying to break in are finding that yes, the product will be delivered, the hours are going to be different, and we have to be available, but we still need specialists that can guide people through the process. Try to think of the independent agent side as like an accountant or a wealth manager or even an attorney. We're advisors, so we're helping people make these decisions that are right for them.
That's an excellent point, Jonathan. And I think, the question that I think we and the industry is wrestling with, and Larry, I'm going to ask the question to you, is how do we keep the heart in insurance? Because it is a business, and it's obviously changing with technology and new ways to buy insurance, right? Because of that phone, that was great. But you know what? It's not just millennials and Gen Z that are buying with the phone. It's my mom, who's 75 years old, who's on Amazon all the time. And I think to myself, the world really has changed. It really has. So Larry, what can we do to create the harmony that we hope we can, so we can still have a business that's successful, sustainable, but has that character that epitomizes insurance?
Well, I'm going to get to that, Margaret. I just want to point out, I mean, those tech seems to be the attractive place to go, right? I have 3 sons, 2 of them graduated from here recently. They're all in Boston. We were out at dinner about a week ago. 2 were in tech, one's in the insurance industry. Well, the 2 that are in tech are kind of making fun of how slow we were to the party, which did frustrate me a little bit. But anyway, the point is, what I'm trying to get across is that the industry is exploding on the technology side. If that's your interest, don't automatically not think of the insurance industry. Most of us, the whole industry is replacing legacy systems. So we're getting rid of all of our operational software and we're getting that up to date. That is, think about the opportunity within that. And at the same time, there's this shift into what you're touching on, is this whole purchase and consumerism and where this is going and how we're going to work with our clients and how we're going to design that. I still believe in the over the next 10, 15 years, there is going to be that opportunity to really combine the two. Take all that's going on technologically, what's going on with buying or new technology that we don't even see today, and then bring the human element into this. Because we are a very service-oriented industry. Jonathan and Chris are talking about the client that needs one-on-one conversation. When people get into situations with us, they need contact. When agents have an issue, they do call us. We take care of them. Jonathan said they take care of us, which is wrong. So what we've often talked about is, as we head into this, how do we take what's available from a technology standpoint, add the human element to it, and really take something special to the industry and to that world. I believe there's a ton of opportunity in that. So what type of employee is that? That's somebody that really understands technology, understands all the analytics that we're talking about, the data that's coming in, and can take what comes out of those algorithms and then take that into a human situation, person to person, and truly make a difference. And I still believe that that's around for some time.
You know, Margaret, you've hit on this a couple of times, and we've missed it a little bit because it's so ingrained in who we are and what we do. We've talked about the heart of the industry, and the ultimate consumer of the insurance product, the time when you really know that you've needed it, is when you may be at the lowest point of your life. Your house is burned down, you've been in a terrible car accident, you've been injured at work. The satisfaction that comes from helping somebody through one of those circumstances, which is what we all do every day, and we sort of talk over it like everybody knows that. Part of the idea that it's a hassle to deal with an insurance company, that's a pretty small percentage when you consider all of the other things that happen in the day. And so in my company, our folks who are claim handlers who know somebody who's been seriously hurt at work, they're physically repaired, but mentally the idea of going back to that place where they were hurt is really hard. And yet we all know that we get great personal satisfaction from our jobs. It's really important to us as human beings. And so getting back to doing what you did and being productive is important. And so the stories that I hear from the people who work with me about sort of helping people get back on their feet, it's pretty inspiring stuff. It's the kind of thing that makes you think differently about that word insurance. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge and explain that to all of you, because I think that's part of the satisfaction you can get from working alongside us.
So I'll tell you, one of my rotations when I was at Allstate was in claims. Okay, and the gentleman who was the leader of claims, he was the vice president of claims, he sat us down at in a room just like this, all the management trainees, and he said, the rotation you're gonna have next is the most important of this whole company, because claims is where the promise is kept. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that when I was at Allstate. I never forget that when I'm at Jacobson. I never forget that when I have a claim and I have to call my insurance company, and the first thing they say is, are you okay? Are the kids okay? Okay, that's the humanity that doesn't exist in every industry. It certainly is alive and well in insurance. You know, and if I take it up a level for everybody, this conversation that we're having about technology and robotics and analytics versus the human spirit, humanity, this is going on all over the world. Everybody's trying to figure out, it's not just insurance. And what it's going to do is spawn all kinds of great new careers. One of them I heard was a talker, someone who just will talk to people, not type, not text, but we'll actually have a conversation where we can look each other in the eye, a talker. Then there'll be a translator, somebody who will take a lot of the technical dump and make it business real, okay, and bring some practicality to it. So there's going to be all kinds of new careers that are spawned that we don't even know sitting here in this room today. But I love the talker because that's a talker inside a company. But somebody like my mom loves to talk. She could hire somebody to be a talker and just come and sit down in her living room and talk and chat for a half hour, 45 minutes, and that would be a job, just like a dog walker is a job. Okay, so it's really interesting, and we're going to see it, and you're going to see it more than we will as this all unfolds. We don't have all the answers, but it's kind of interesting to think about, isn't it? So I'm going to shift it up a little bit. Larry brought it up, and I'm going to ask these fabulous executives what their ultimate hire looks like, okay? And I know they're going to ask me a lot of questions like, for what role and what level, but I'm going to say be broad, and let's just go with me for a minute. What's the thing that really catches your attention when somebody walks into a room, walks into your office? You have that connection with them. What's that magic? What's that sparkle? And it could be technical. It could be something technical. But if you could be holistic for a minute and talk to us about what is your ultimate hire. You want to start, Larry?
I'll start. This really sort of centers around, and you said, you threw me off a little, Margaret, when you said walked in, because I think that's very difficult to know right then. But what I believe is the ultimate hire. Obviously, somebody that's bright, adaptable, flexible. But the biggest thing to me, I believe, is somebody that's coachable, somebody that really wants to learn and is being aggressive with that. There's a constant feedback loop going on what they're doing, and we get to coach and mentor. They tell us, they question, they're naturally curious, they're questioning, well, why do you do that? And we get into, that's a good test to go through. I've always said, always ask why if you don't know the answer. Because we should be able to stand up. There should be good reasons why we're doing something a certain way. So they're curious, they're asking questions, but reality here is there's just a constant building going on of their learning and knowledge, and us being able to lay out their career ahead of them. So somebody that's really willing to come in and learn, I think is always the best hire.
Chris.
So I'll keep it very holistic and very simple. Some career advice. I have one daughter in college, one daughter kind of headed towards college. So I've been seeing and touring a lot of colleges the last couple of years, and I want to go back to college, okay? Because what you all are doing is awesome. You go to class for 16 weeks, and you get a long break for Christmas. And then you go to class for 16 weeks and you, all this pressure to get through finals. And then you get the summer off. Yeah, you got to work a summer job maybe or something like that. College is great. There's an enormous step into a career, and an enormous step into just a job, which I think those are different things. And so some career advice for you. And so when I think about your question, Margaret, I think about, you know, what's a perfect, great new hire for? Some real simple foundation kind of things for you. Does everybody know where a diamond comes from? Like, what makes a diamond? Where does it come from? What's the cool? Where does it begin? Comes from a piece of coal, right? A lousy, cheap piece of coal starts a diamond. But time and pressure creates a diamond, right? And so think of your career in trying to create a diamond, okay? Some real simple things as you move from very fun college days to work, and it's work for a reason. Everything about work is not going to be fun. I don't care what job you go get, I don't care where you work, it's not always going to be fun. Some parts of it are work, okay? But so some very simple things for me as we hire people out of college. Work harder. Show up to work just 10 or 15 minutes before you're supposed to, and don't start closing out your computer 5 minutes before the clock ends, like 5 or 10 minutes after. It's a really simple thing. Do the right thing. You know, think about quality. Whatever you're doing for a job, whatever company you're working for, just do the right logical thing for your client, for whatever your task is. That really is all we're asking for as an employer. And the last thing this is now coming from a non-millennial, I guess, but when you're at work, be at work. And so the cell phones, turn them off. There is not, I don't think, there's one important Snapchat or Facebook thing that you need to look at during the day. While we're paying you a compensation, we're giving you benefits, we're giving you paid vacations. Think about that. You're going to get a job where you're going to take a week off, and we're going to pay you to go do that. So when you're on our time, when we're paying you, be in our space. And during lunch or during breaks, if you want to check Facebook or if you want to check the internet, that's great. But think about your professional image. Think about your professional space. And there's an old adage that if you go out for a hike in the woods with a friend of yours and you come upon a hungry, angry grizzly bear, you don't have to outrun the bear, okay? You have to outrun your friend, all right? So the analogy here is this, that work a little harder than that person beside you. Pay a little more attention to that person beside you. Focus a little more than that other person that you're working with, and your pay, your compensation, your value to the company will go up. And that's all within your control.
It's a great point. And you've probably heard a lot about your personal brand or a product's brand. You are the CEO of you, and you are in charge of your own brand. Okay? Your reputation. You know, I've said this to my kids who are 22 and 19. If there's something on Facebook, I'm not going to make it go away. I'm not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it go away. That's on you. And you are carrying, you know, our family. And then I go, and grandma will see it. So what I will say to you is that it's not just your mom and dad, but it's your employers. But you know what? It's you. It's you. It's how you show yourself to the world. I always tell people there's things for Facebook and there's things for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is professional. Facebook is social. Okay? And there is always going to be a little bit of a mix, and especially with your generation. But you always want grandma and grandpa to be proud of what they see about you. And I think that's important, your professors, but most of all yourself, because your personal brand, you could have the greatest resume and the greatest GPA in the world, but if you don't protect your brand, there's nothing that any of us can do. I could be the greatest recruiter in the world, but I can't help. So protecting that brand, to your point, Chris, is really important, and caring for it is really important. Jonathan? However you want to take it, ultimate hire, career advice, however you want to go.
I'm going to go clean up my social media before you check it. But no, a couple of great skills to have is time management. Again, whichever direction you go, whatever career you decide, being able to figure out what's the most important thing to be working on right now. Another suggestion is problem solving. As you enter the workforce and as you're learning your respective career, you're going to be working for somebody or answering to somebody. Whenever you go to them with a question, try to have a couple of your own solutions. And even if you're completely wrong and you're completely just try to put some research into it, try to think it through. You're going to find that whoever you're working for is going to start migrating towards you and paying some more attention to you, helping you with your career. It's, I agree with everybody, punctuality and that's incredibly important. If you want an employer, if you're going into the business world, dress in business attire. We've been working on a internship program with University of Southern Maine. We're going into our second year. We start out the very first day and try to explain to students what business casual is, what's business attire, and it'll all help. When you show up to something important, wear a tie. I obviously forgot today, but you'll be fine if you put a little bit of thought into it and put some effort in. You'll find that good things will happen.
And I think that's a great point. Great, lessons. And it's interesting that we've seen insurance kind of transform itself from very much a suit and tie environment to a lot of CEOs look the way that Jonathan does. They'll wear a sports coat, no tie, sometimes with slacks, sometimes with jeans. A lot of environments are business casual, and a lot of insurance companies have gone to a dress for your day. So if you're going to be meeting with the insurance regulator in Maine, trust me, you're going to be dressed up like Mike right here. But if you're going to be in the office, maybe it's casual Friday, or maybe it's a business casual day, you won't be all suited up. So there is some flexibility. And that's one thing that I think the industry has changed a lot on. Because I remember at Allstate, women could not wear slacks. Women could not wear slacks. And I'm old, but I'm not that old. And I said, wow, you couldn't leave your desk without your jacket on. And you couldn't have a glass of water on your desk because they were afraid that it would spill on the paper. So we've come a long way. We can have drinks at our desk. Well, not
some
drinks at our desks.
That's the fun part of our business.
Yes, but we've come a long way. And the industry has changed just like the business has changed too. All right, last but not least.
Yeah, I think there's been good advice that's been offered here. I really like what Larry said about being curious about the industry and about interested in what happens in other departments, not just in your job. Understanding that idea of understanding holistically, because that shows, one, it shows your interest in the industry to your boss or to your CEO, but it also gives you an opportunity to sort of gauge and understand where you fit in and how maybe you might fit in better in a different spot. I think those are really important aspects of people who succeed in maybe almost any place, but certainly in the insurance industry. I would say, the best hire I ever made actually was somebody who came as a high school intern and was part of a college to work program and finished their 2-year degree first at a community college and then went on to the university and got their bachelor's degree. Today, she is our director of communications at MEMC, and she started at basically 18 years old, and but was always curious, worked hard, was great at taking advice, and continues to know that even now, just like all of us, and it's part of the ethic of our company, and I think of all of these folks as well, that you never stop learning.
Thank you all. So I've asked a lot of questions. Now it's time for you. You have their undivided attention. So any questions, any comments? Yes, thank you. And would you stand up and introduce yourself for us? Maybe tell us your major and what year you are?
I'm Marie. I'm a fourth year political science and marketing student, and I just wanted to know what majors do you tend to hire usually? What main people do you want to see in the job positions?
That's a good question. I mean, we certainly, business is one that comes to the top, but frankly, we look at people with various liberal arts degrees, communication degrees. Christina might be able to even speak more appropriately to that view.
Oh, absolutely. I'll stand up so everyone can see here. So I do a lot of the recruitment for MEMIC. So we hire all sorts of majors ranging from, I mean, I can tell you I work in HR. I got a degree in sport management. So it really can vary. So I'm hiring, could be political science, economics, statistics. I'm hiring for an underwriting data analyst right now. So we're looking for that statistical background, tech, all sorts of majors. So just because you might not have majored in a particular area doesn't mean you're precluded from that particular position. So definitely keep your options open.
Thank you. Other questions? Comments? Did anything surprise you that we said?
Did we make it sound less boring?
Yes. Okay. Another question?
I
Yes.
wanted to make a comment. I personally liked how you explained how it's more of a person-to-person job. It's more that you get to really relate to people's emotions. I definitely wanted to something with public policy, advocating for people. I think that's an excellent transition to insurance too. You need those skills.
As an insightful comment. So one thing I would be remiss if I didn't talk about is the fact that you're looking at these four gentlemen up there who kind of look the same, no offense. And our industry, insurance, is very, very hungry for diversity and inclusion. It's time for insurance to become more diverse. So when I'm not doing my day job, I run a couple of women's groups. One of them welcomes enlightened men. It's called WING, the Women's Insurance Networking Group. And we have chapters all around the country. We have the Insurance Supper Club, only for women. And this is a place where senior level women and women on board of directors come together for networking and education and conversation and fun. Okay? And there's all kinds of things that are going on in the industry to promote inclusion. Because inclusion just isn't gender. Inclusion is when a company in Maine hires somebody from Ohio. Okay? That's inclusion. That's inclusion. That's bringing different thoughts and perspectives. Okay, so it could be age, it could be gender, it could be race, it could be just a different university. Instead of always recruiting here, maybe go somewhere else and mix it up a little bit. So inclusion and diversity for men and women of color, different genders, we are so hungry for it. And it's a great opportunity, I think, for all you ladies in the room, and it's very nice to see you here. And for you gentlemen too. It's an industry that's very, very welcoming to everybody.
I would just say I'm glad you mentioned that, Margaret, because more than 60% of the people who work at MEMIC are women. And there are a lot of rising stars in our company, I would tell you, are some of our women in our company who've come in the last few years. And so that's pretty exciting. To speak generally about diversity, I heard a speaker recently say this, and I hadn't heard this before, and to me this rings so true and is so important for all of us to think about, which is to say, we all know the old saying, great minds think alike. Well, the speaker said, that to me means one of us is redundant. And I think that's a really important way for us to be thinking about what we do in this industry, but anywhere we work, frankly, that there are different ways to think about the world. And as the industry is evolving, we need people who think differently to help us all evolve.
Yes.
To that end, how can somebody stand out and show that they're somebody different and somebody that you want on your team? Like, what can they do in the either application or interview process that makes them like, oh, stand out?
Show up early, dress professionally, ask good questions. A lot of the things that take time at home, especially once you get into let me back up a little bit. Whoever you're going to go interview with, do some research about their company. Go online, read their website so that you have questions for them about the company. I know talking with people, the things that resonate with me are somebody that comes back and and it's not just corny questions just to show that they've read the website, but they researched the job. If you're applying for a customer service job, Google what that is. And so when you come into it, you have an expectation. If it's a sales job, if it's, any job that you're looking for, do the research before you get there. And that's going to send a message to whatever job it is that you showed some enthusiasm. And then once you get that job, take some time in the evening to study up. You don't have to. This doesn't have to be 80 hours a week, but plan on working 45, 50 hours a week. Even if some of those hours you're at home and you're studying on your own.
Great points. That's a great question. We could do a whole session on interviewing, but I'll tell you all that the interview process, it's intense for you, but it's intense for us too. All we know about you is what we see on your resume or a cover letter, okay? How you present yourself, okay? What you wear. Are you on time? Okay? Do you send a thank you note after the interview? Okay? Do you send a note? And you can send a handwritten note. We tell people send a nicely professional email note because it's timely. But you're not writing to your friend. No offense, these guys are your friends, yes, but they're the CEOs and the executive vice president. You want to be professional. You want to be appropriate. You want to say, Mike, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. You'd be surprised how many people never say thank you.
Use punctuation in your email.
Punctuation is good.
It sounds
Spell
funny,
check.
but you wouldn't
Yes.
believe the people that that will be applying for a job, and that's the impression that the employer is getting of you. And then it's a one continuous run-on sentence without even a comma. All right, next.
And don't spell you, Y-O-U. It's
We
not a
didn't
text.
text. Remember
It's
that.
not a text.
We had
Yes.
grammar teachers that were
That's
very,
right.
very strict.
Spell check is not your friend. It's not. You have spelling. I was going to say that's probably my English major. Michael, you're probably like that too. When somebody sends me something that has a typo in it, I just cringe. Not because they made a mistake, but because they didn't take the time. They didn't take the time to recheck their work. Okay, that's the difference. That's the distinguishing factor. That's the edge. And we hope that today we've all given you a few tips, a few tricks, edge. We've made you laugh, hopefully a little bit. And so before we go into networking, I want to ask each of our esteemed panelists just to give you one takeaway, one tip, one word of wisdom, a short soundbite that you can walk away with. Michael, would you like to start?
Another just great quote I heard recently, and I think it speaks to some of what we've talked about what makes a good employee. And it was, there's what you say, what you think, and what you do, and the first two don't matter.
One of the things that I've noticed is over the last several years, there's been a lot of talk about generational differences, and that your expectation of work is different than our expectation. I'm much younger than the rest of them on this panel, so I would fall into.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Well, I think it was quite obvious the entire row, but still, once I crested 40 to that's ancient. But understand that when so you're inundated with it. The world needs to change to comply with your needs because you're a different generation, and that's just the way it is. But the consumer out there, the employer, they don't necessarily have to change. So be flexible and understand that the world changes slowly, and that the work-life balance is different, and it's no fun at working for United. I'll text if you want to work. No, just kidding. But understand that your employers do get irritated. That we get very accustomed to being attached to devices, and understand that it is good to even now learn that separation. It's not healthy. It's heavy, and just be open-minded when you enter the workforce, and you'll find that being flexible and enthusiastic, you'll go as far as you want to go.
So there are 13,000 jobs in the insurance business in Maine. Today, we're really representing about half of it, the property and casualty side. There's also life and health and companies like Unum that do some ancillary type of benefits. So there are lots and lots of opportunities out there in the insurance business. Few people, as it was mentioned earlier, come into the insurance business because they really, in 7th grade or 5th grade, said, hey, I want to do this. We kind of stumble into it, and we talked about some value that we do today and the claims value, and I'm glad Mike took some time to talk about that. There's nothing better than to help somebody walk through a terrible situation and make it better. And so I've been in the business 25 years, almost all of my career. And if I look back in the rearview mirror and said, okay, I could do it all again, I'd like to be a professional baseball player, okay? But I can't hit a baseball. And so, but if I had to do it all again, I can't think of an industry where you can control your destiny, make a fair wage, and work with better people than this. That the industry does have a bad rap on some things, and chat a little bit about that. But this business, the value in it for me is largely around I get to control who I do business with. And I get to do business with really nice people. People I work with, my partners, my insurance carriers, and my clients. And so if you are not thinking about insurance business, you really should. And give it a try. Reach out and find us and see what we have for openings. If we don't have a particular opening, I think I can speak for these guys. We can help you find another carrier or another agency that does have an opening, and so we can help you open a door and start a career. If you, at your age and your space, what all of us, I'm trying to remember being 21 or 22 years old, when you're a senior in college, what you're looking for is a job. I need a job to pay rent and take care of my car and eat, and you need a job. And your first job, maybe you stick with it, maybe you don't. Maybe your first employer you stick with, maybe you don't. But give the insurance industry a try. We have a job for every type of interest and personality. And we have, as Margaret pointed out earlier, we have an aging workforce, which means we need people to come in as an entry level so they can become a senior producer or a senior account manager or a senior underwriter, whatever it may be. So I love this business, and I cannot, I can't imagine another business to be in.
Mr. Kozer.
Okay, so,
The baseball analogy.
yeah, I know you can't hit a baseball. There's a few other things you can't do. So where I'm going to go is, we touched on technology. We touched on the Amazon effect. Mother talked about her mother, which has just been an explosion. But the Amazon effect is going to continue to have a major impact on what the consumer expects. And it's going to be very technology driven. And you all are going to have so much to offer. Just your texting ability, you didn't have to take programming or anything like that, but just your ability to understand technology is going to be extremely helpful wherever you go, because that's where the world's going. So my tidbit, if you will, is, but don't forget the social aspect, the human aspect of interaction. Because I truly believe the most successful people in the future are going to be those that bring the technology piece. You're going to have that. And we've got artificial intelligence exploding, and we got all kinds of different things that are going to bubble up over here that aren't really all that human. But how you interact with people. What Chris is talking about, helping out people, selling, getting people through tough situations, negotiating, problem solving. If you get really good at the personal side of things, that will always pay back a huge part of your investment. So just continue to hone those skills, and don't ever get caught up in the thought that the social skills don't matter.
Thank you, Larry. And that is probably the biggest differentiator to your point, is the social skills. That person who can build a relationship, who can own the room, who can smile, who can look you right in the eye, who can shake your hand with a firm handshake, it makes all the difference in the world, okay? A robot is never going to be able to do that. and technology will never replace that. So I'm going to leave you with my parting shot on insurance. We call insurance the career trifecta. It's stable, it's rewarding, and it's lucrative. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your career and where you want to go. I am also at your service. This is what I do for a living. I bring great people like you into the insurance industry so you can become great people like them. And we need you. So we welcome you to the industry. Thank you for being a part of Insurance Careers Month. And I'm going to take lots of photos because we're going to be all over social media in about an hour. So I thank you all. And I think it's time for us to network, right?
Well, I thought we'd do a raffle while we get the food set up, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Yes, thank
So John's going to help us here.
Does everybody have a little blue